Joe Urban is
Joe
in the-
Mullings.
This is great. I mean, I've had some great guests
This
whole
is
week.
perfect.
This backdrop's good, but you and I have not physically seen each other for at least maybe 2 years, 2.5 years.
I think it was JP Morgan 2020, right before COVID.
Right before, okay.
You were driving around with a camera, and it was a lot of fun.
But that's your fault. Like, just for the record, Joe Urban was my first girlfriend for the most part in med tech on putting content out.
It was amazing. We had a lot of fun. It was almost 4 years ago, Joe.
It was almost 4 years ago.
We had you come in and film Theranova, where we were in the incubator, and it was fantastic.
Yep, and
a lot of fun.
We spent time with some unbelievable people there, and it was great because Joe, you were a first-time CEO, and you know what you've accomplished. So we need to come back to that. First-time CEO, you and I just hit it off, and we started talking about this craziness of bringing in cameras and documenting, and you know, and then we did round two, and we brought in advisors. From Mayo Clinic, from Google, who else?
Rackspace. Netspective.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So Potrero, for those who, if you're on LinkedIn and you don't know Potrero, then you're not on LinkedIn. Joe's clearly a talented artist.
I am. I am a bona fide stick figure artist.
I got
That's
your
right.
first edition though.
You did. You did.
It's up on the wall.
Leadville, I believe.
Leadville.
Yeah.
Leadville. So, you know, you embrace, so Potrero, predictive analytics, acute kidney injury. Just for our audience, give me the sort of 2-minute version of what your mission is, what you're doing, and why it matters.
Okay. What we've done is we've integrated sensors into traditional medical devices that just reside in the body and do nothing. We've put sensors into those devices. Those feed into a machine. We are measuring at an incredible 100 hertz, which is amazing, which is enabling our algorithms to really operate at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, we're starting with acute kidney injury, abdominal compartment syndrome prediction, and then a number of other disease states that are right behind it. We see this as a two-step approach to the business. One, the medical device, which is the bedside monitor in the operating room, the ICU, the floor, where it's providing everyday clinical value to the doctors and nurses. Mm-hmm. The disposable that's in the patient that is enabled is enabling the machine to work to the extent that we believe it, the power that we see it. Mm-hmm. And then the algorithms that are behind it, the software and the services that we will be launching on a cadence now, which, if you can believe it, 3.5 years ago is a lot of hand waving. It's coming to fruition. We're going to be on a cadence where we're launching algorithms in about a year, every 6 to 12 months for the foreseeable future. These algorithms will be digital products. They'll be tools. Once the market's proliferated with the initial devices, and we've done our job by being perfectionists with making that device better for the clinician that's bedside, that can help the patient get out of the bed sooner, the products that will be put onto those machines will be digital in nature.
Wow. So it's a digital product.
Digital platform that's extensible by nature, and it can grow beyond what we're just doing. We're building the core competency around data and being able to process massive amounts of data and collecting the data and putting it into a product and then turning it into something that has immense value to that clinician that's bedside.
And it's a predictive tool, correct?
That's right.
So you can see something coming before it comes.
We see it today. We can see acute kidney injury almost as, and without making a claim, we are working towards having that real-time prediction where today it's real-time, tomorrow it's just standard of care, but we can see it.
Wow.
And it was methodically approaching the problems, not just producing data. You can produce data, but the problem that we saw was the fundamental issues with fluid dynamics of the tube draining. And you're in a anatomically closed system with the kidney, ureter, bladder that's attached to a physically closed structure with the Foley, drainage tube, and bag. And you're trying to maintain a slightly positive pressure in the bladder. So it's easy to get everything out, like all the urine out of the bladder, but you can't do it without creating a negative pressure event. That's bad. And so the engineers have methodically solved that. What that's done is it's enabled our intra-abdominal pressure readings to work with precision. And what I'm going to announce tomorrow is pretty amazing. Our Foleys go in the cardiac, right now in our cardiac registry, our Foleys go in the operating room. We start measuring as soon as the Foley is inserted, the cassette's inserted into the monitor. In that 3-day period, wait for this is crazy. In that 3-day period, we're measuring bladder pressure 25,920,000 times and calculating intra-abdominal pressure over 8,000 times, 8,640 times. But this is where it gets really interesting, and this, you know, Kelly Stanton, our data science, and now his team that's working on this. This is what gets them excited, and why they're staying with Potrero instead of going to Google or Facebook or any of these other companies, is because when you start to get into huge populations like a catheterized patient population, and you're measuring at 100 hertz, 100 times per second, you're talking about models that you use at Google, where you're in the billions and beyond. And so in our 2,500 patient registry, we're going to measure bladder pressure we're going to measure bladder pressure 65 billion times. 65 billion. At the end of this year, Joe, we're going to have 65 billion bladder pressure measurements. It's beyond, we have gone beyond human capability at this point.
Wow.
From that, we calculate intra-abdominal pressure over 22 million times.
Well, why is that important to me?
It helps you see where the disease originates. When we can see across 65 billion measurements, we can see when acute kidney injury is happening.
How big of a market is that?
Acute kidney injury is anywhere from $4 billion cost to $25 billion.
Okay.
And so what we're working towards is identifying it at the point of origin. What we're seeing in cardiac surgery is intra-abdominal pressure is normalized during cardiac surgery. Chest is cracked, your atmosphere, they close the chest. We see a two-step phenomena. The first phenomena happens when they go to the ICU. You see a primary increase in intra-abdominal pressure. The pressures are being pushed down into the abdominal cavity to the levels of intra-abdominal hypertension. It's not just the kidney that's being affected, it's every organ system that's being compressed. And we see it through the kidney,
lungs, heart.
Well, that's the perfect trifecta. In the abdominal cavity, we see the kidneys are affected, we see the intestines, everything, the liver, everything's being compressed. And so what we're seeing is this increase in intra-abdominal pressure right off the bat. It plateaus for 3 hours, and then we see a secondary phenomena of an increase in intra-abdominal pressure, sometimes in abdominal compartment syndrome pressure thresholds, and that is held for 12 hours in a number of cases. So why is that important? Like, you've lived your world with recruiting in robotics, laparoscopic procedures. You started with U.S. Surgical.
J&J Ethicon, U.S. Surgical.
So insufflation, right? What's the insufflator set at? It's always set at 15 millimeters of mercury. That pressure, anytime you're at that pressure, that's a known pressure in the abdomen. Anytime you're at that pressure for a prolonged amount of time, they know that the kidney function is going to decrease. The surgeon will look over and say, how are the kidneys? What's the urine output? Because that's an indicator for everything else in the abdominal cavity.
But that's usually post.
So hold on, this is in the middle of surgery. Now imagine for a minute that for 12 hours, we're maintaining a pressure of 20 millimeters of mercury. The damage that's being done. And so you go in for a heart surgery, for a broken heart, you have okay kidneys, you leave with a fixed heart and broken kidneys. We believe that we can see this early, as soon as it's happening, and early identification equals early intervention.
Got it. So, you mentioned something earlier, which is always one of my favorites, is it's why your data scientists aren't leaving for Google or Facebook.
Yeah.
Keep somebody on a browser for 48 more seconds or save millions of lives. Gee, what kind of decision is that?
Right, and it's impact where I always like to have our clinicians get on and talk to them about the real patients so they can hear it and see it, and we send our engineers in for evaluations. Like when we're doing commercial evaluations, The engineers are side by side with our commercial team because they can see the people that they're helping. They come back, they talk about it at we have a weekly company meeting, and they share it with the company. And it's a fantastic feeling when you know that that's somebody that you may not be fighting for directly because they're not your family, but it could be your family member tomorrow, your best friend, or your neighbor.
Likely is.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love, Joe, is you've embraced sharing those Potrero stories with the industry, with the world on LinkedIn. I mean, you're probably one of the most followed CEOs on LinkedIn, if you ask me. It's my opinion, and I've got a little experience on there. And what you share is amazing, from your thoughts to your teammates' thoughts, to the wins in the hospitals, to your team working out of a hatchback, writing code in the back of a car.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
It started when you and I started doing this, and I saw the effect, the positive effect from a recruiting standpoint, being able to pull in the best talent. I saw it from an effect of reaching physicians that would never have seen our message anyway. I saw it from an effect of my own personal growth. I write a message, I try to every single day, where I write a message to the team. Sometimes it's too direct to the company, too personal, that I won't put it on LinkedIn. Other times I'll incorporate some learnings where I'll wake up at 4:30. I wake up at 4:30 or 5. I had knee surgery 2 weeks ago, so I haven't been waking up at 4:35. I slept into 5:30, but I still type. And then to have some fun, and I know it makes it pretty vulnerable, but I draw a little stick figure.
Love them.
And that's to encourage people to read the article. It's not for the stick figure.
You're pretty good.
Kudos on that.
For a stick figure guy, you're pretty good.
But it's the message that is in there that I want.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than people to have a moment of inspiration. And I started doing it when I saw our team everyone was feeling kind of beat up last year. The world was upside down, and I started just writing to the sales team, and then it branched out to the entire company. And then one day I just drew, I think Santosh was the first one that won it. It was a stick figure with a sign that said innovation. And it was the most absurd thing you've ever seen. It's a stick figure holding a sign that says innovation. Like, that's ridiculous. But it was about embracing being uncomfortable and just making yourself a little bit vulnerable. I believe the reason I know why I do it. I don't believe it, I know it. Is the people that are working so hard at Potrero, it's about them. And so when Brian Shattuck is in Washington, D.C., and he's working his butt off on the weekends doing kidney transplants side by side in the middle of the night on a Saturday with the doctor, it should be about him when we present this out. It should not be from the company. It should be from the CEO recognizing that hard-ass work. And that's what I think is missing in medtech across the board. It should a lot of canned stuff coming from companies, a lot of canned stuff coming from peers. And what I would love to see, I'm sure you're in agreement here, is I'd love for people just to put it out, make it about other people, and be authentic.
Live out loud, man. And you're doing everybody else a favor, right? And that, I think that's why you're one of the most loved CEOs out there. One is, whenever I chat with somebody, you always pass along sort of your opinions on me. I run across it all the time. Like, people know me because of you, right? Which is really awesome, and I love that. And thanks for that.
Likewise, they know me. Like,
right, because of our relationship.
Introduce me to Joe, right?
But where was that? You're an Army Ranger, right?
Well, I was in the Army, but in
right?
psychological operations.
Psychological ops, right? That's what it was. And you also did some ultra marathon running, right? Crazy.
Probably why I had to have knee surgery.
Probably
2 weeks ago.
But where did that come from? And you led some great teams at Bard back in the day.
Bard, Oris, Boston Scientific.
Boston
companies.
Sci, that's right.
Yeah.
And Fred you can call Fred in the med tech industry, and everybody knows, like Cher, right? Everybody knows Fred,
Yeah.
right?
He's an amazing
Fred Moll, amazing man.
mentor.
So you've had some great mentors along the way. What's your guidance to people who have a chance to lead from the C-suite or the executive suite? What would you leave us with today? That, like, look, just do this. Stop with all the other stuff. Just do this.
Yeah. I'll talk about 3 mentors that I've had. There's been lots, but there's 3 real mentors. Darren Hammers at Boston Scientific, he's the guy that gave me my shot into med tech, and he's a CEO now. He's a fantastic guy. Rob Hansen, who is a general manager at Bard, and he was the first one that explained why going into marketing from sales made sense. And it's you're a junior general manager as a head of marketing, and that's all I had to hear. But no one had ever explained that to me, and it was just putting it in those simple Joe Urban terms and stick figure, like drawing it out, like this is why you have to do it. That made sense to me. And then Fred Moll, just understanding how to take a pretty audacious vision and put it to work. But what each one of those guys had in common, and there's lots more that I'm leaving out, is they took the time to have those conversations with me, and it left an impression. And so taking the time to be vulnerable and authentic to your people. I'm overly transparent. Jeff Mack, our CFO, is in there. He cracks up because a lot of times it makes him nervous. But I believe in sharing that information, and I trust my team. And so it's a level of trust. From a CEO communication, I don't get why the Fortune 500 company CEOs aren't using LinkedIn every single day to speak to the world. Like, just just hit the button and go live and just talk to people.
Talk to them.
It would be great to hear from all of those guys, and just not to have a script or a teleprompter, but just here's what's happening in the world of Medtronic, J&J, Boston Scientific, and here's what we're doing, and this is what's so exciting. And challenging them to do it like on a daily basis, or just put something that they wrote, right?
Not their handler.
Not that somebody
not
handed
comms.
them. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, just so you know, every single stick figure I draw,
You do it yourself.
I sign it. I put it in. I put it in the frame. I take it to the post office.
You mailed me mine.
I mail them, and it comes from me.
I love it. I love it.
But it's a personal ownership, I think.
Yeah. Well, Joe Urban, probably my favorite leader in the med tech industry, and
Thanks, Joe.
one of my best friends in the industry
Yeah,
too.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Joe Mullings from LSI. Be well.